Hello everyone, welcome back to this video series on Ahruf and Qira'at controversies concerning the Quran. Myself and Dr. J. Smith here with us in studio. We've been really unpacking a number of important issues as it relates to the so-called Quranic Ahruf and Quranic Qira'at. And of course, every time we're focusing on one specific issue. Last time we talked about what does the Quran, its own internal evidence to support the fact that the Quran has been preserved. Today, Dr. J is going to unpack to us some of the modern Muslim scholars' claims concerning the preservation of the Quran. Dr. J, welcome back.
Oh, thank you for
having me. So what do Muslim scholars tell us about the preservation of the Quran?
Yes, and this is a good one from the last episode where we talked about the fact that they have to say certain things. They're hang-tied by the Quran itself. And we looked at chapter 85, verse 22, which says that it's eternal, it is the preserved tablets that are uncreated. We looked at chapter 10, verse 15, and chapter 18, verse 27, which says it cannot be changed by any human hands. And why? Because chapter 15, verse 9 says very clearly that Allah preserves, guards. The word that they use is guards the text. So if that is the case, then you would expect then modern Muslim scholars to support that. And let's look at them. Let's go to the slides, and let's start with Fethullah Gulen. Now, Fethullah Gulen he's a Turkish leader, a cult leader. He is here in the United States, actually. Erdogan and he have had this real problem. I'm not going to get into the political situation, but he is well respected within his own circles. What does he say? Go ahead and read what he says about the Quran.
And I think people will be seeing this also as we're reading it. He says the Quran's text is entirely reliable. It hasn't been altered, edited, or tampered with since it was revealed. All Muslims know only one Quran perfectly preserved in its original words since the Prophet's death when revelation ended. And that's exactly what I was taught all of my life.
Okay, so this is not new to you. So you're used to this. This is what you grew up with.
Right.
There is one Quran that is unaltered, unedited, and untampered. And now you would expect Gulen. He's not saying anything. Let's go to a new convert, and this is what she says. Her name is Suzanne Hanif. She is well known in Muslim circles. Let's go and see what she says.
Now, Suzanne Hanif says the Holy Quran is the only divinely revealed scripture in the history of mankind which has been preserved to the present time in its exact original form. It's the same thing, reworded, basically.
Looks like she studied well. Looks like they trained her well.
Right.
She's saying exactly what they want her to say. She's a new convert. Okay, maybe she's just mimicking what she's been taught. But let's go to the next guy because he is not a convert. This is Abdullah Yusuf Ali. Abdullah Yusuf Ali is highly respected. He is the one that is most noted for translating the Quran into English in the 1930s, and it is his Quran that has become the standard. Even the Hilalian Khan used his text to be as a model for their own translation. So what does he say?
Here's what Abdullah Yusuf Ali says. He says, so well has it been preserved, both in memory and in writing, that the Arabic text we have today is identical to the text as it was revealed to the Prophet. Not even a single letter has yielded to corruption during the passage of the centuries. And I find it interesting that he mentioned also memorization as part of that process.
Memorized and written, but not even a single letter. So he's now making a much bigger claim, a much more difficult claim, and that is even every letter, and you know, as you now know today, there are 28 letters. Used to be 16, it's up to 28 because of the 5 dots that have been added to it. So he's saying not even a letter has been changed. Let's see if he can support that. Let's see if that is the case.
And you know what's so interesting? It is Yusuf Ali's translation that is so terrible that he adds things in brackets to clarify his own translation.
There's the commentary. You have to. And there's an awful lot of brackets all right through his, because much of the Quran just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Now let's go to another well-known scholar. This would be Maulvi Muhammad Ali. He is the Ahmadiyya group, and he is from Pakistan. He's a theologian. He should know. He is not a translator. He is a theologian himself. What does he say?
He says the Quran is one, and no copy differing in even a diacritical point is met with. There are, and always have been, contending sects, but the same Quran is in the possession of one and all. a manuscript with the basically the slightest variation in the text is unknown.
So not even a diacritical point. That means a dot of the 5 dots. Now, that to me, I was incredulous when I heard this. A theologian saying that, stop and think it through. There were no dots in the 7th century, so how could there be dots even in the one that's up in heaven? Because dots were invented by men. Dots were invented so they could read it.
That's right. And it's kind of interesting. You see the progression here in these comments that it's kicked up a notch, Memory is for preserving it now. The diacritical marks are means to preserve it. You have the letters are means to preserve it. It's just fascinating to me how I used to believe in all of these things.
Okay, so these are Eastern, these are traditionalists, these are people from Pakistan, from the Indian subcontinent. And from Turkey. Let's now go into the Western world. What do the Western scholars say, Islamic scholars? And let's go to the two that we know the best. Let's start with Shabir Ali, Dr. Shabir Ali.
And he's one of my favorite, really. Especially recently, he comes up with these amazing ways to try to explain things. Here's what he says. We have a copy of the Quran dating from 790 in the British Museum, known as the MS 2165 Mail Codex, which, by the way, is available online for people to see. Folks, that's 1,300 years ago, and we can compare that with what we're reading today, and we find them to be exactly identical.
Actually, I've got it sitting right down there. I've got it in this room, that 2165. And that's fascinating. Now look at the dates he's putting to this, 1,300 years ago. Actually, he's pretty correct. The dates for the Ma'il are from the 8th century, not from the 7th century. So he's correct on that point. But noticing he's saying it's absolutely identical.
I don't understand how he can even make a claim like this.
Well, first of all, has he done any study on that manuscript?
Well, when he said that, apparently he didn't.
Has he done it today?
Well, right now he's trying to patch the holes.
Has he done a study? No, he has not.
I'm not so sure that
and
he did.
That's why it's amazing the things they can claim. They can make these kind of claims, and the reason why they can make these kind of claims is because no one's done any study on it. You can make any claims you want when no one can really confront you. We're now going to confront that, not in this series, these episodes. We're going to be doing that now in other episodes when we actually look at the manuscripts. And we're going to show you that in every case he is wrong on this.
I want to just point this to the attention of people that a Muslim by the name Yassin Dutton did do a study on this particular manuscript, and I want people just to go on Google and see what he says.
Okay. We're also going to talk about it and ask and see what also Dr. Yasser Altıkılıç said. Not Yasser, Altıkılıç and also Ekmelettin Asalu, the two doctors from Turkey, what they said about this manuscript. But that's in another episodes that's yet to come. But Yasser, our good old friend Dr. Shabir Ali goes on and says something else. And here's another quote that I'd like you to read.
Here's what he says. But what is important to notice is that throughout the ages of Muslim history, the Muslims having quarreled over
Have not quarreled.
No, have not. That's right. Have not quarreled over what is the text of the Quran, because the text was known through memory work and through the written materials. Here we go again. Handed down right from the time of the Prophet Muhammad. As I said, the two copies that were made 1,400 years ago, one which is in Tashkent, Russia, for example, has been demonstrated by Ahmed van Demfer in his book Ulum al-Quran, which by the way is available for people to buy, to be an early copy from that time, and we find no difference from that copy to what we're reading today. And I can tell you this is a huge misrepresentation, because I myself have the entire manuscript for this particular Quran, and I can tell you it is not exactly the same.
Okay. Let me ask you, is Tashkent in Russia?
No, it's not.
It's in Uzbekistan, isn't it?
That's right.
But so he already made that error, geographical error. Is it 1,400 years old?
No, of course not.
It's 1,300 years old.
It is.
Notice in this
written
earlier,
in Kufic, by the way.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's an Abbasid text. It's written much later. And fascinating because he said the earlier time, he said 1,300 years for the Ma'il. Now he's talking about, and this is the Samarkand manuscript. We're talking about the Samarkand manuscript.
And I want to know how he can make a claim like this when he knows that it starts from, I believe, verse 7, chapter 2, all the way to chapter 40. We have 114 chapters, so it's only have a portion of the Quran How can he make a claim like this about the entirety of the Quran?
We're going to get into that. That's not for the whole
That's
series.
right.
What we're looking at is, look what he says at the very end. We find no difference from that copy to what we're reading today. Ooh, I love
people
that.
are waiting for that, by the way, for you to do that.
Oh,
They're
I'm
always-
sorry. What?
They're waiting for you to do this.
My ututus?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's Shabbat Ali. So you can see Shabbat Ali I would love to know, and I'd love to have tea with Shabbat Ali and ask him if he still claims would he still support these claims? He can't. He must not, because already he said on May 19th in 2020, so just about 3 months ago, he said very clearly that, okay, we do have some changes. He admitted that on camera on his daughter's show. So it's obvious that he's now changing his position in 2020. So he could not support these quotes that he gave earlier in this century. But nonetheless, let's go and see what Yasir Qadhi says, because Yasir Qadhi is probably the more famous here in America. Yasir Qadhi is well known on the intellectual circles. He is highly respected as a scholar and a cleric here in the United States, grew up in Houston. And so as a result, let's look and see what he said. Go ahead, read his quote.
And to tell you the truth, I mean, up until this incident in June, I've always appreciated Yasir Qadhi's at least straightforwardness and honesty in expressing things.
Yeah.
I mean, he never really hid anything. He just explained it and even reasoned with other Muslims, say, hey, the Prophet, one time he says, he's just a human like us. He makes mistakes. And he did talk about things like this, which is unusual to hear from a Muslim cleric.
Right.
But it was, of course, the pressure that came on him based on that interview.
And it is those verses, the mantra that he had to say to support himself. And even today, he's trying to backpedal. He's really trying to repair the damage that was done on June 8th. So much so that he has now had to delete the entire interview off his channel. But let's see what he said earlier. This is from one of his earlier quotes.
And here's what he says. Uthman standardized the copies of the Quran, and from his time up until our time, there hasn't even been 2 copies of the Quran that are different, even 1 letter or 1 word. The Quran, another quote, the Quran is the most protected of all scriptures, and God has protected his Quran from any kind of alterations, deviations, miswriting, because he says he is going to protect it. I think he's referring to chapter 15, verse 9. Another quotation, all Qurans, even up to our time, conform letter for letter, word for word, with the Uthman Mus'haf, that's the so-called Uthmanic Rasm. To this day, there is no different version of the Quran. There is but one Quran. And these are a boatload of claims that a scholar will make. I wonder how he can defend any of them.
Well, he did. This is in the interview. Look and see what he did. I am absolutely certain, I have no doubt whatsoever that the Quran is the Word of God. The Quran is preserved. The Quran has been guarded. He's just referring to chapter 15, verse 9. He's referring to chapter 10, verse 15. He's referring to chapter 18, verse 27. He has no choice, Al-Qadi. And this is, Al-Fadi, sorry, and this is why, can you see the conundrum that they're in? Thank God we don't have this kind of conundrum with the Bible. Thank God we don't have these kind of claims. Because let's look and conclude now. What is it we're finding? Let's go ahead and see what they say. Modern scholars, these are their conclusions. What do they all agree upon? Number 1, that the Quran we have today has not changed one iota since its inception 1400 years ago. That's their claim, not our claim. Okay? Not one word, not one letter has changed. That's Yasir Qadhi. He just quoted that. Secondly, they say that the Quran we have today is exactly the same as that which is on the preserved tablets in heaven. That's chapter 85, verse 22. And there you see chapter 18, verse 27, and also chapter 10, verse 15, which is very clear that it has not changed, no human interference, cannot have any human interference. And number 3, that today's Quran parallels in every detail that which was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad and was written down completely by Uthman in 652. And then number 4, that no human intervention, there is no human interference. There is none of these. But is that what the earliest Muslim scholars believed? That's the next episode. Let's see what the earliest Muslim scholars said. Because it's fascinating, the modern Muslim scholars have to make this claim, but is that really what they said earlier on? You'd like to know, wouldn't you?
You heard the man. We'll come back to you next time. Have a blessed day. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel Qira'at International. Also click on the bell so that you can receive notifications whenever we publish a new video or we go live. And I would like to appeal to you to consider becoming a Patreon patron by clicking on the link right below, and that way you can give towards the production of these videos. There are also other options for you on how you can give to our channel. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.